spent years editing business podcasts, and I'm about to save you thousands of dollars and months of wasted time. Every single business owner who hired me to edit their podcast ended up quitting within months. Why? Because podcasts are terrible marketing strategies for businesses. Look, I get it. You see these successful podcasters and think I can do that. But here's what nobody's telling you about why business podcasts fail and what you should be doing instead. So what most people think when they actually start doing a podcast is they think that the long form video, they can cut this into clips and then send it across platforms like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, and have all those short form viewers funnel back into the long form video. And the reality of the situation is that just does not work. And the reason because of that is because the short form viewers, they usually just stay watching short form content, and the long form viewers just stick to watching the long form content. There's barely any crossover that it makes sense to fully invest in this strategy. The second thing with doing a podcast video, a 2-hour podcast video, is that titling it is going to be completely difficult unless you guys talked about like one main subject during the whole podcast. If I'm one of your potential leads and I type in on YouTube how to do email marketing and I see a 10-minute video titled that same exact question, then I see your business podcast titled Business Podcast Episode 47, which one do you think I'm realistically going to click on? It's probably going to be the 10-minute video titled My Exact Issue, because I know the dream outcome of that video is going to be them solving my issue, not your podcast titled Business Podcast Episode 47, because I don't know what the end result of that video is going to be. Also, it's a 10-minute video versus a 2-hour podcast. Which one do you think I'm going to value more? It's obviously going to be the one that values my time. Just to go back to the short form clips, I know you've seen clips from Luke Belmar or Andrew Tate going absolutely viral on Instagram Reels and TikToks, but what you don't understand is the way they speak. They were actually taught, they were trained to speak this way. And the way they speak, it's a way that can be edited into a clip format. Every time they speak, they frame it in a way that when an editor sees it, the editor can make it viral because of the way they're speaking. Most editors, when they're looking at your business podcast, they're not going to be able to cut it up that way because of the things you're saying in there. This skill that Andrew Tate and Luke Belmar and a bunch of other podcasters have, it's a skill. It's something that has to be taught, and it's something that has to be learned. Most entrepreneurs just don't have that skill. You can't just ramble for 2 hours and expect magic moments to happen. It's impossible. So for your podcast, you most likely have this intro that has your logo on it, a really cool animation, and some techno music. Yeah, that's probably like the worst thing you could do for your podcast. And the reason being is because the hook is the most important part of the video. We all know as content creators, if you ever checked your analytics, that the majority of viewers you get clicking on your video, they actually click off within the first 30 seconds of the video. So what you need to do within that first 30 seconds is a form of proof, promise, and plan. You need to be able to tell the viewer what the video is actually going to be about, why they should watch, and what the dream outcome of watching this video will be for them. And when you just use that time showing off this cool logo animation with some techno music, the viewer isn't really getting an understanding of what the video is actually going to be about. Here's what everyone misses. Your job isn't to entertain people, it's actually to get them to change their behavior. Most successful podcasts, they're built for entertainment. People listen to them while driving or doing the dishes. They're not actually sitting down during your podcast and taking notes. Most of the time, if you're a coach, somebody selling an info product, you do fall under the lines of an educator. And the type of people you're selling to have to be the type of people that actually want to take information in and learn the information. So if they're not going to be sitting down, taking notes, taking your video seriously, they're just watching it while having a beer, sitting down or something like that, they're not really getting the information in their head, and they're not going to buy from you. So there's so many AI tools out there that show that you can put your business podcast into their website and they'll turn it into viral clips for you. One popular website is Opus Clips, and I've used Opus Clips a lot in the past. And what ends up happening is when you put in a business podcast, they'll look at the footage, they'll give you a few clips from it, and they'll give you a completely fake virality score. The truth is, the way they cut it up, the way the footage looks, it's not going to make you viral. Like, this content, it just doesn't attract your potential customer. So don't go wasting money on this monthly subscription for AI tools that can't fundamentally fix the flawed content. Think of it as like you're putting expensive rims on a car with no engine. It just doesn't really make sense. You also have to think about the true cost of what having a podcast looks like. You're gonna be buying equipment, mics, camera, lights, a bunch of software subscription. You're gonna be spending your own time planning and prepping for the podcast, as well as spending money on editors. Either you're editing it yourself or you're hiring freelance editors to do this for you. You're going to be spending all that money for content that won't bring you any clients. There's going to be absolutely zero ROI on that business podcast. And what's going to end up happening is after a few episodes or a few months, you're going to burn out, because realistically, if you're not getting lead flow from your business podcast, you're just gonna quit. You're gonna call it quits right there. So here's what actually works on YouTube. You wanna create focused 10 to 30 minute videos that solve a specific problem. You wanna make sure that every second you're on screen, somebody's actually receiving value from you, that they can go into their own lives, implement what you said, and actually get the desired result. You need to focus on converting viewers, not entertaining them. And the way you convert viewers is by educating them and handling all their objections. And then the fourth thing, if you absolutely want to go on podcast, you want to just talk for 2 hours, go look for other people's podcast around your area and ask to join their podcast. Ask to be interviewed by them. This allows you to tap into different markets, especially if they're already started and they have a big following. This allows you to tap into their target market. So all the people with successful podcasts that are educators, they all started selling just basic education stuff. So Dave Ramsey started with selling books and courses. Caleb Hammer, he built his audience with focused financial advice. And Graham Stephan, he was a successful educator first in the real estate space. They all built their audience through focused educational content. And then they added podcasts later on. Here's the truth. Do you want to spend the next 6 months figuring out how to create high converting YouTube content? Or do you want a team that already knows how to do it? Click the link below and let my team handle everything from ideation, scripting, thumbnail design, video editing, and posting. All you need to do is show up and record. We'll handle the rest. Stop wasting time on strategies that don't work. Click the link below and let's start creating content that actually converts.